We all pay thousands of dollars to go on a cruise, and we should expect the premium experience that they promise in the advertisements. But lately, the data and my own eyes are telling a different story. Satisfaction ratings are crashing for 4 major cruise lines. Today I'm going to tell you exactly how they're cutting corners so that you can decide which cruise line is still worth it for you. I'm Gary with Optimal Cruising, bringing you fresh cruise advice, money-saving hacks, and secret strategies the cruise lines don't advertise. Let's get started. I've sailed on Norwegian quite a bit over the years, and I used to love the way they do things differently from other cruise lines. In fact, they pioneered the freestyle cruising idea. But now their freestyle has turned into more like fee style, as they're adding a lot of nickel and dime extra charges on things like entrees in the main dining room where they used to be absolutely free. There's 3 big things I've noticed about Norwegian, and their customer satisfaction ratings have dropped 20% in the past year. That's a huge drop for anybody. And if you look at the changes they've been making, it kind of makes sense to me because, number one, they're now charging for an extra entree in the main dining room. Not after you've had 2, but after you've had 1. If you ask for another, you have to pay an upcharge. It's not just about the extra fee. It kind of makes cruising less fun. And then they've cut back on housekeeping. Back when I first started, it was great. You'd see your cabin attendant in the morning and in the afternoon to turn down the room. Now it's once a day, and they've cut back on staff, so the quality, according to reviews, seems to be deteriorating. And Norwegian has been cutting back on their entertainment. NCL used to be known for having big-name productions on their ships. They'd have groups like Blue Man on there or other well-known entities giving entertainment to the guests. And now they have cut a lot of that in favor of in-house entertainment. Well, the quality there just doesn't measure up. NCL has also stopped printing the daily program, and they have put limits on door decorations. And then if you look at the ships, the newer Aqua-class ships are getting mixed reviews. Some cruisers love them, but a lot of the older, loyal to NCL customers think that they're confusing. Their design is different from what all the older ships are like, and they don't really like it. And then you're hearing a lot of complaints about NCL's older fleet and that they're not keeping up the way they were. So the ships are getting more run down, they're not being refurbished as quickly, and it just makes for a less enjoyable cruising experience. And while Norwegian is doing a lot of cutting back, this next cruise line just can't seem to be consistent. I'll be honest, I really like MSC, and I've been on every one of their ships sailing in North America. But the service is not consistent, and neither is the food. And that tends to be a problem. Now, I've had really great, excellent food on MSC cruise ships. But there was one cruise I went on once where things weren't up to par. And it's hard to tell why they can't get it together. Now, their customer rating has dropped 14% in the past year, which isn't good for a cruise line that's trying to build a brand in the American marketplace. Now, while they're well known in Europe, in America, they're fairly new to the game. If you've been on one of the MSC ships in North America, they are stunning. I've walked every inch of these ships, and they're amazingly beautiful. And I really like the layout, how they keep adult areas away from the kid areas. It makes it a nice vacation. But you're hearing in the complaints that there's often lukewarm food provided, which really isn't good, that there can be a lot of chaos on board with long lines for things and people not understanding what they need to do. For example, they make you sign a waiver just to ride on the water slides, and there isn't a lot of instruction to go around. And then I'm hearing complaints that they cater to a lot of kids and families, which they do. They're offering kids sail free fares quite a bit. And if you're trying to get away from that, all the extra families and kids on board can pack that ship more full and make it feel more chaotic and crowded. And while I've not personally experienced this, some cruisers are commenting that the service is not very friendly on MSC and they're used to a more friendly service experience on cruise ships. I have to say, though, that one standout is MSC's Yacht Club, and if you are going to pay to get into the Yacht Club, I have not heard a bad review about it. If you've been on an MSC ship, I really want to know what you think about it. Put it in the comments below. Princess has always been a great cruise line to go on for premium service, but that service has been slipping lately. In fact, it seems like they can't keep consistent food quality right now. Sometimes it comes out cold. Sometimes their service isn't up to par. You have to wait 20 minutes for a drink at a bar. And if you're expecting premium service, that's not really what they're delivering these days. Princess's consumer review rating is down 10% to its lowest point since COVID times. And reviews tend to suggest that their service is stretched too thin and that they're trending towards the mainstream cruise lines instead of an elevated service these days. So if you're going to pay more for Princess, you might not be getting all the more that you expect. Now, I'm going to tell you my favorite budget cruise line to go on right now. But first, let's look at where the fun has stopped being fun. Every time I've been on a Carnival cruise, I had a great time. They're the fun ship, and that's what they advertise. But unfortunately, Carnival is making a lot of changes and cuts that seem to be taking the fun out of cruising. And this can be seen in their consumer reviews. In fact, their consumer rating has gone down 25% in just the past 6 months. That's a huge drop. Now, some of this dissatisfaction comes from their change in their loyalty program, which I go over in depth in another video. But in a nutshell, they went from a program where you earn points by the number of cruises and the number of nights that you cruise with them to a program where you have to spend money every 2 years to maintain a certain status. It's based on how much you spend, not on how many cruises you go on. And people are losing their loyalty status if they don't keep spending. Many loyal Carnival cruisers are feeling penalized, and they're saying that it's no longer a fun, affordable cruise. Longtime Carnival cruisers are complaining that the food has been downgraded, that it's often bland and repetitive, and there are many reports all over the internet of rowdy behavior, fights, kids running reckless through the ships, and that's not an environment a lot of cruisers want to be in. And a lot of cruisers are telling me that the older ships are getting more run down and not being refurbished and kept up properly. However, the reviews on the newer ships are pretty positive. Now, let's take a look at where I'm booking my next cruise. But first, if you've gotten some good information so far, make sure you subscribe to our channel and get all of our cruising updates. So you might be asking yourself, is it still worth it? Well, of course it is, but you just need to adjust your expectations accordingly and know what you're getting into when you book and before you cruise. While there are a lot of changes going on in the industry, one cruise line that's been relatively consistent is Royal Caribbean, and that's where I'm booking my next cruise. In fact, I really love the Enchantment of the Seas, which is an older ship. Now, I've been on it more than once, but I'm booking my next cruise there because I want to sail it again. And what I really like that Royal Caribbean does with their older ships is they keep them up properly. You're not going to notice that it's a 15 or 20-year-old ship. And in fact, the older ships are more unique with corners and crevices throughout the ship that you can kind of stow yourself away, enjoy the sea, read a book, listen to a podcast, do something that you want to get away from the crowds for. And then they also have the big party decks and the pools and the solarium and everything else you would expect. But this is not an advertisement for Royal Caribbean. I'm still going to sail the other lines. It's just important to know what changes are being made so you have the right expectations. And there are a lot of passengers recently getting items confiscated that they really need on their cruise. I'll tell you how to avoid that right here.